my beautiful people. First thing that I want to say is, of all of the wonderful places that I have to film in this apartment, for whatever reason, I am just called to be sitting on the floor cross-legged in front of my couch because it's just what's in resonance with me this morning. But we're vibing, right? It's all good. Number 2, it is sunrise. Like, the sun is coming up now, so the lighting is probably going to get horribly blown out, and I apologize for that in advance, but we're going to try to rock with it. And number 3, I've just got some quick things to catch you up on because it's been a while since I've actually made a proper video for YouTube. First of all, hi again, nice to see you. I'm sorry for kind of abandoning this channel for the last 3 weeks or so. Life itself, living life, has been all consuming, and this is really the reason why I want to make this video today. Just to kind of intro this, I think a few weeks ago I made a video where I did start to talk about the cyclicality of life, how life itself has seasons similar to how nature has seasons, and how being your best and brightest self is all about embracing whatever season you are in, whether you are in the blossoming, gorgeous, abundant summer, or you are in the depths of your own personal winter. Both of those things, all 4 stages of life, are wonderful and beautiful things that are meant to be embraced. And I'm coming out of one season and into another right now. And that's why I want to talk about it today, because I think we oftentimes really struggle with embracing the falls and the winters of our life. And we just really focus on the springs and the summers. And the whole point of this video, which I'm going to dive into, is that we shouldn't do that. We should just love every aspect of our life, every single corner, every single piece along the way, because the cold, dark winters are what makes the bright, warm summers so meaningful and substantial. So with that, I want to get into some high-level points before I dive into what each of the seasons represents to me. So the sentence that I wrote last night when I was scripting this video is, every season has its reasons and every reason has its beauty. It's easy to embrace life when we're in a good season, right? When you are in your abundant summer and everything is blossoming and colorful and full and abundant. It is so easy, respectively easy at least, to look at that and say, wow, this is beautiful. This is so amazing. I'm so happy to be here. It's easy to embrace life when it feels good and warm and full. But do you embrace life when life gets hard? Can you hold yourself truly when things fall apart? Because if you're only proud when things are going well and you can see the abundance of the choices that you've made and the seeds that you've planted that are blossoming, if you can only hold space and be proud of yourself in those moments, but then when life gets hard or you're in one of those more desolate periods of a fall or a winter where things are being cleared out and life feels a little empty and maybe a little bit hollow, if you're criticizing yourself during those periods, then you're missing out on half of the beauty and wonder of life. If you're only focused on, the good is great and I love that so much for me, but then it gets kind of crappy or slow and then you're just falling apart because you're like, why is it not summer again? You know what I mean? You'll just very quickly and very easily and very subtly let half of your life pass you by because you're in this kind of negative, positive, negative, positive. So every season has its reasons, which I'm going to get into now in the bulk of the video. But the other thing that I wanted to say is, every reason has its beauty. You have to embrace the beauty inherent in each moment and in each season. And I know that kind of sounds cliche and hard, and it can be really hard to look around when you're in the depths of a winter of your life and be like, this is great, because it doesn't look great, and oftentimes those times don't feel great. But there's beauty in every single moment if you can awaken yourself fully to the present and find peace within yourself. That's something else that I've really been exploring and understanding slowly over the last few weeks, is that the present is an entirely neutral place. Unless you're actively being victimized or abused, or there's some negative thing actively occurring in your space, your reality is up here. You're creating your existence based on your perception of everything that's going on around you. And if you are fully in this present moment, what you realize is that you're not your thoughts, you're the person that's thinking them. And those things, wow, that was great English. I need to have more coffee apparently. Those thoughts become feelings, those feelings become emotions, and suddenly you can have a day not dissimilar to days that I have many times where I'm just sitting here, and if someone walked in or if there was a camera on the wall, God, I hope there's not, it would look like I'm having a blast, but in my head I'm just running through these like intense hamster wheels. As no bueno. But if you tune yourself fully to the present, what I'm essentially trying to say is that it doesn't matter if it is summer and it doesn't matter if it is winter, because you create your reality in here. The outside world actually has very little to do with how you feel. And so you can actually tune yourself in and find true beauty in these moments where it feels like things are really still and not really working out so great. I promise you, because it's just about connecting deeper within yourself as opposed to without into the rest of the world. Now, I wanted to start with spring because I feel like it's a season that we can all kind of agree, generally speaking, is a nice one, right? Like things start blossoming, the birds come back, you start to hear them chirp, you start to hear some crickets. It's a symbol of a fresh start. It's a symbol of the depths of winter and this cold and this bitter darkness leaving and releasing its grips on the world so that the beauty of a spring, of fresh growth, of new coming in can truly shine. And that's usually a pretty optimistic period for people, especially if you live in a place where you actually experience 4 seasons like I do. You get warmth, you get sun, you get the days becoming longer. It's that things start to grow, and there's this inherent optimism in the way that people view the world when it turns into springtime. It's just a beautiful thing to experience that like new life that's coming. Like you just feel it within you that something new is coming, and it's amazing. Spring could be making new friends, getting into or meeting a new intimate partner, getting a new job offer, starting a new job, basically just like something that feels new in your life from a seed that you planted that you are starting to see bloom because you've spent some time watering it, you spent some time nurturing it and caring for it, and you're starting to see the flowers bloom. It's beautiful. You are just fully embracing and immersing yourself in the beauty of new beginnings, of new, of fresh, of regrowth. And that's just like an inherently eager and optimistic time for most people. But remember that for a second as we circle back to winter in a few minutes, that what truly makes spring so beautiful is the fact that it comes immediately after winter. It's because you are going from the coldest, darkest of days to warmer, longer, more wonderfully warm days. You know what I mean? Like, if you didn't have spring right after winter, would it feel the same? Would it mean the same? Something to think about. So a few months after you get your nice budding, blooming spring turns into summer. And I like to think of summer as this mecca of, like, you get to that point in a very powerful, deep song, and it's just, you kind of have this slow build up to here, and there's just this orchestral resonance to the world around you. Everything's full. The trees are full. There's less space around you, right? Like the trees aren't bare. There's just there's fullness to life. I don't know how, there's not a better word than fullness. Life is in full blossom. There's a natural momentum to things when you get to summer, right? Like there's kind of this, I called it like a warm inertia, where things, you get to a point probably around here, maybe like June, July, where everything is just fully budded and fully bloomed. And there's just this warm inertia for like 3 months that carries you through the entirety of the summer, where things aren't continuing to grow. They're actually just staying right where they are, or they're actually slowly beginning the process of decomposition into fall. But everything's just coasting at this full beauty that's magical for months and months. You get to just kind of go outside and put your feet in the grass and soak up some sun, and it feels so good, and everything's just full. And it's amazing. You're kind of settling into your abundance, right? Like this is once you have established kind of a routine, or you're settled into something that feels good. You found a pattern, you found a habit, you found a hobby, you've got something that you've been doing over and over again, and it feels good because you're like, yeah, I'm kind of at the mountaintop and I'm just going to coast here for a while because I worked hard to get here, and that feels really good. But then what happens in nature, right? Things start to die. And I don't want to sound so like dark and morbid, but if you think about it, what's really happening here is that there is such an overabundance of sun that the leaves start to just dry out. And they get burned by the amount of abundance that is in the air. The sun is strong, and it's just so much heat that keeps you in bloom for so long until the leaves simply can't handle it anymore. And they start to wither away and pass. They start to break down because they've lived their usefulness of that abundant period, and they're ready for something new. And I thought about this last night when I was trying to think of the metaphorical connection to what this represents when we're experiencing the end of a summer period in our lives, not just why the leaves can't handle it. And I think they can't handle it for a very similar reason. And it's something that I don't think we think about very often, but it is truly exhausting to be full. It takes so much energy to be full, to be riding that wave, to be, even if it feels like you're coasting for a second, you're coasting at such a high operating level that takes so much processing power for the trees and for the rest of nature and for us. Like, it takes a lot of energy to be full, and that energy needs time to recuperate and regenerate, right? So if you think of that summer period as a battery, you might get to the top of your mountain and you're like hopefully close to 100% to really enjoy the fruits of that labor in that period. But after a little bit of time, like, that energy is just going to drain, and then it's going to come down, and it's going to come down. It can't be full forever. It can't be, because energy comes and it goes and it changes and it transfers, and that's just simply how it works. Sometimes you really just can't handle as much as you think you can for as long as you think you can. That's okay. It takes a lot of energy to be full. The leaves start to dry out, and then they fall. If nothing else, let fall be your reminder that the end of a season can be just as, if not more beautiful than its abundance, that period of summer. It's so much prettier. Like, all of the colors that come out only in fall, if you think about it. We love the summer, we love the abundance, we love the full bloom, but there's just the sheer beauty of the resonance that is going from summer into fall, the bursting of the colors, how you go from green to yellow to orange to red, and all the different trees, they're falling and they're dying at a different rate, and they create a different set of colors and a different set of feelings. There is so much variety in that period of life, and that period of life is one of the most beautiful seasons. So the next time that you start to feel yourself entering into a period in your personal life where things aren't starting to feel as great anymore, or you're starting to struggle a little bit, I want you to consciously think about the fall and how beautiful you probably think it is when you walk outside on a nice Sunday morning in October and everything is burning alive because there's just so much color everywhere. Your death, your decay into fall might feel scary and like you're failing, and like all the other things that I talked about at the intro, where we tend to criticize ourselves when we start to fall off the rocker. But you are so beautiful in that season, and I want you to remember that the next time that you're going through your personal fall and things are starting to kind of get shaken up and they feel a little confusing and like, wait a minute, I thought I had this. I thought I knew who I was. Oh, now there's more shadow work. Oh, now there's this piece of drama that entered my life. Oh, there's something that I need to think critically about. Just pause for a second and just think of fall and how beautiful it is. And I would be so curious to know how that helps you through those periods of time. Well, why is fall so important? Because, here's the thing. We don't like the concept of decay, and that can feel, especially if you have control issues like I do, like that can just feel like the whole world is detonating, and that's just never a fun place to be. But the lightness of those once lush leaves in that summer abundant period makes it easier for the wind to carry them to a different place, to the place that they're meant to go next. That's the kicker. You see, because the leaves blow and they fly and they slide and they drag across the earth, and they spread seeds doing that and pollen doing that. And they go from one leaf on one tree in one fixed place in time and space during the summer to a leaf that could have traveled to 10 different places, because part of it breaks down and it goes here and it goes there. And then there's a piece of pollen that blows in this direction. There's a piece of pollen that blows in that direction. And so one leaf on your beautiful summer tree is worth far more in the fall when it gets to go anywhere and it gets to multiply in a way that it couldn't when it was stuck to that one tree. See, because if your abundance was simply abundant, if it was just that, then it would only be abundant in one place. A tree can't move, but the leaves can. And that's why fall in your personal life is so beautiful, because you're being carried, even if it doesn't feel that way. You are truly being carried to where you are meant to go next. Not all of us are meant to be in one place. We're not meant to be married to one tree in like a metaphorical sense, but also just in general in life. Like, there are so many different areas and places emotionally, physically, spiritually that your life is calling you to. And that, if you choose to surrender to it, can be the most beautiful world ever. Just think of, I can't keep going back to it, just think of the fall when you start to feel that in your life and watch how things change. You are a leaf that is surrendering to the wind so that the wind can just be like, hey buddy, don't worry, we got this. We're going to put you right where you were supposed to be. And watch what happens next. Winter is what happens next. And this is the hard one. Winter in just a nature season, I'm not a fan of, and I definitely am not a fan of it when I'm in a personal winter in my life, but it deserves and truly requires to be embraced and to be honored, because it's a very important season. It might actually be the most important season, really, truly. Now, again, when I was musing on this last night, I was thinking, like, well, why don't I like winter? Why don't people, just generally speaking, like winter in nature? And obviously, in your personal winters. And I thought about it, and I realized it's because it's hard to love something that you can't see. You can't see anything in the winter. The soil is not soil, it's just frozen dirt. There's no trees blooming, everything's bare, everything's a little darker, there's less sunlight, there's less everything. And you can't really look out and see anything that I think we associate oftentimes with what beauty represents. We think of beauty as lush and vibrant and warm and colorful, and winter is the anathema of all of that. And so it can feel really challenging to think that winter is beautiful, but it is. All beauty is not designed the same, and I think that's what makes beauty beauty. There's no inherent beauty to anything. If there is an inherent beauty to anything, it is the fact that there's so much variety in what it means to be beautiful. Anyway, so the days get shorter, and maybe you're putting in a lot of effort, maybe you're trying to change, and everything feels so useless, again, because you can't see anything, but it's working. Just because you can't see something working doesn't mean that it's not working. Just like I said, winter is hard to love because you can't see it. You can't look into it, but you can feel into it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference. And that's why winter is so different than the other seasons, where you can look and see something that's like, yeah, it's working. In winter, it looks like everything's not working, but it's actually working so hard. And the quote that becomes really important for me here is, the flower does not bloom the same day that it is planted. Growth takes time. And the thing that I want you to remember is that it is taking its time. It is happening. It's not that nothing's happening just because you can't see it. Growth takes time. The flower cannot bloom the same day that you put the seed in the soil. That's just not how life works. And it's always darkest before the dawn. And I know that's kind of a pretty cliche thing to say, but literally the darkest moment, when the sun goes down and we're entering nighttime, is the literal moment before it inflects to dawn. The darkest moment is the moment right before the light comes in. So the moment with seemingly the least amount of hope is minutes away from the beginnings of optimism. The moment where it is the darkest and the coldest and the most desolate, the moment when your brain is going to be firing at you harder than it has fired at you about anything else in the past, that things are failing, that things are not working, that this is not functioning, that it's gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse, that moment is seconds away from the beginnings of something bright. And if you give up when it gets that dark, you're never going to give yourself the chance to experience the light that is waiting for you if you just held on a few minutes longer. That's why I always say keep going, because you can literally be that far away from the exact thing that you want, and you'll just never know. So what does that mean? That means that you just need to hold on until the darkest moment, because that moment is the start of something beautiful. And the last metaphor, connection, whatever you want to call that I will give you about winter is that the hibernation of everything dying and being cold and being frozen over is what those seedlings need, because tiny starts deserve their delicate beginnings. If you had a newborn baby that's sitting in the hospital trying to rest and recover, and you threw it into the chaos of a Sunday night family dinner, do you think that would be good for a newborn baby? No. They need to be wrapped up and nestled and warm and in a quiet, beautiful environment, because the start of something delicate is the start of something beautiful, and that delicate nature is something that needs to be preserved and nurtured and embraced. That's totally okay. I'm just going to read it right off because I'm over trying to orate here. I like what I wrote here the best. Nurse the beauty. Make those moments feel safe to be had. It might not make the process go any faster, but it will be far less scary. Your beauty is sacred. It doesn't deserve to be scared. I think I'm going to end it just like that. I hope you can learn to embrace yourself and be proud of yourself no matter where you are, because whether it is spring, summer, fall, or winter, you are equally as beautiful in all parts and aspects of your life. And I want you to remember that the way that life looks outside has nothing to do with your worth. It's how you feel inside that truly makes the difference. So make that world a good one, a warm one, and a nice one, and it will honor you back tenfold in the joy that you experience in the world around you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to wrap up the video here. If you like the video, then please drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you so much for being here. I truly love you from the bottom of my heart, and I will talk to all of you next week.